The great forest acts as both a shelter and a mystery to animals that would traverse its pathways. Creatures moved through it like they belonged there, for some did. To some, the great forest was home. To others, a giant maze with multiple forks in their journey. The trees' elegantly twisted branches constantly swayed and leaves shivered. Sunlight spilled down through the treetops in warm, glowing patches. The ground was soft and springy with moss. Bobo berries glistened on shrubs like tiny, juicy jewels. A pair of rabbits foraged quietly near a large tree, their paws gentle as they picked truffles and berries. Somewhere deeper in, a marshing family rolled a handcart along a narrow path, wood creaking, wheels catching on roots. The small crocodile kid riding inside, with his tail hanging out the back, humming to himself. The air smelled like damp earth and sweet fruit. Everything was ordinary. And then, a sound cut through it. Not a shout, not a scream, but a child's cry. It didn't come from anywhere you could point to. It was like the forest itself had made the sound, like the trunks of the trees themselves could be the source. The rabbits froze. Ears snapped upright. The marshings stopped mid-step. The handcart tilted slightly. The kid's humming stopped as he looked around, curious and concerned. The cry hit again, broken, hiccuping, and so full of raw panic that it didn't sound like something that would fade, but build more. It sounded like something that would change the shape of the world. And then the ground answered. A low rumble rolled under the moss, under the roots, under the very foundation of the forest. It shook the land. The rabbits backed away from the shrubs. Their fur was bristling. The marshing father pulled the handcart closer, like he was shielding it with his body. The rumble deepened, the air thickened, and somewhere beyond the trees, beyond the forest's edge, unbeknownst to the forest's guests, something rose into the sky. Not smoke, not a storm, a wall, a purple-black stretch of nothing, too smooth to be a fog, too heavy to be a simple shadow, pulled itself upward like it was trying to reach beyond the sky. Its surface rippled slowly, like a disturbed bed of water. It stood firm and steady, as if waiting for something or someone. Viridal was the first. Noctivere folk would share its tale, sometimes as precautionary, sometimes as myth. The stories all sounded the same, though, even when different perspectives told them. One moment it was a town, a real town with fields, market stalls, lanterns, fences that needed fixing, cottages that sheltered families, children chased each other between rows of crops, merchants and foragers would make their rounds. Then the ground rumbled and the wall appeared, instantly splitting the thriving and lush village, and it simply took. People ran. Animals grabbed their kin. A badger mother dragged her cub by the scruff. A squirrel dropped his basket and didn't even look back. The void didn't chase them like a predator. It didn't need to, for it often just stood, intimidating. Occasionally it moved, like a closing door, a door that would often stay closed, once shut. And whatever was caught in its path, homes, fields, lives, was swallowed without sound, without resistance. It birthed creatures from its undulating surface, glue mines that would relentlessly retrieve its victims with shocking strength. Sometimes the wall would recede, but only for a moment. The wall didn't persist. Scouts who dared to return to areas of recess said the land looked normal, trees still stood, soil still felt, smelled, and nourished like soil. The world almost pretended like nothing had happened, but Viridal was gone. No ruins, no ash, no broken fences, no citizens, just absence. Orin came later. Orin was stubborn, strong. Orin had stone walls and wide roads, and a people believed that nothing could touch it because it had endured everything before. Orin believed in hammers and forges and hard work and not bowing down, but the void did not care what you believed. It arrived at the edges of the western region like a bruise spreading through skin, slow at first, a little closer each day. Orin began to evacuate when it was too late to pretend it wasn't real, when the air around the outer farms had already began to hum with the wall's energy. People ran toward Floria, toward Erovia, toward the great forest, toward anywhere that felt like safety. Some had made it, some did not, and still the void didn't chase, it didn't sprint, it simply persisted. Floria had believed the great forest would protect it. The great forest was their shield, their quiet guardian. When the evacuation started, some laughed, some argued, some stayed behind and called everyone else dramatic. Then the wall crept to the forest's edge, and instead of stopping like it used to, like an ocean tide that pulled back, the void pushed deeper, stronger, faster now. The trees didn't fight it, they only watched as they were taken. The forest muffled sounds, the forest would soften light. And now the forest was being muted too, swallowed up. The edge of the void pressed into the great forest like spilled ink slowly bleeding across paper. Every letter, every word, disappearing into its dark, and from its border, the glue mines began to multiply. They didn't belong anywhere else. They didn't rest. They didn't hunt for food. Were they alive? They would simply move, silent, patient, and relentless, their scribbled faces shifting as if some invisible hand couldn't decide what face they should wear. They grabbed, they carried, and they returned to the wall. The meadow came next, that open stretch of silvery grass under the moon, the place where footstep crunches would echo and everything felt open. It became a divider between what still existed and what was already consumed. Travelers saw the void from miles away, a dark line against the horizon that didn't belong in the sky. Some swore it had retreated once, years ago. They weren't lying. It had pulled back before, but not by much. Only enough to give false hope. Only enough to create fake sense of mercy, like it was toying with the land. The tundral hollow was already filled with fog and twisted trees and silence, so when the void pressed near it, it felt like the hollow had always been waiting for it. And maybe it had. The fog thickened. Already invisible paths had been completely erased. The nocturnes that had recently moved into the tundral hollow had again evacuated, like anger that couldn't remain still. Beneath the land, the earth and its tunnels too would be overtaken. Neither underground or sky provided relief from the pressing darkness of the void. Closing in on the rocky valley that led to the tree city, its greatest challenge was in sight. It taunted, confident it would prevail. The mountain listened. By the time the void reached Erovia, it wasn't a line on the horizon anymore. It was a barrier. It hung above the treetops like a living storm cloud. Arovia tried to keep living for as long as it could. Lanterns were lit in daylight, for the wall had taken their sun. Mothers pulled their kids close and told them to be brave like it was just a drill. Soldiers flew patrols until their wings ached. And then the wall reached the outskirts of the Tree City and did something it hadn't done anywhere else. It stopped, but not in its usual way, not because it was finished, because it was deciding. It stretched upward instead. Dark strands rose into the clouds, like smoke being pulled by an invisible hook. They curved, reached up, and then began to connect, each thread tying themselves together. Under the dome, the glue mines fell down like rain. They fell down in sudden bursts, dropping from nothing into shape, hitting the ground without sound and forming without any hesitation. They moved slowly through streets and treetop bridges, their bodies flowing like contained smoke, their hands too steady and too strong. They grabbed at anything alive. A squirrel father yanked his child away from one, but taken by another. A hamster mother screamed until her voice was muffled by the void's silencing body. Arovia's roads were congested instantly, as fear was widespread. Carts tipped, baskets were spilled and crushed. "Caves!" soldiers shouted. "To the caves!" "Leave it!" someone screamed at a fox, trying to pull wagon full of books. "Just leave it!" A badger refused to abandon his tools until his wife slapped them out of his arms. Up the mountain paths, rivers of citizens flowed and climbed, breathing hard, crying, carrying the smallest ones in their arms. The caves protected them just enough, lantern light flickering in dark caverns of stone. And still the humming did not stop. It rang out and vibrated through the mountainside itself. A bird soldier slammed through a glue mine and turned it into mist for half a second of victory, before it reformed and reached again. Fighting was to no avail, not because you weren't strong, but because strength wasn't what they answered to. They answered to the wall, and the wall only answered to her.